Welcome everyone. It's gonna be a kind of a quick presentation. A lot of this stuff is on CCL. We kind of wanted to pull together some information just to help with any tabling and clipboarding efforts for this House campaign that we're doing currently. A little bit of our agenda. The first thing we really want to touch on is our COVID safety considerations, since the Delta variant is kind of still going on right now. Then we're going to kind of touch on our focus right now at CCL, just to kind of give our tabling a little bit of direction. And we'll kind of dive into some of the tips and suggestions that CCLers that have done a lot of tabling recommend, as well as some useful resources that you can use for your current tabling out efforts. So the first thing we said is the COVID safety considerations. The Delta variant of COVID-19 is changing the dynamics of the pandemic. It's a lot more easily caught. It's affecting younger people. It's even affecting children. And so CCL really has tried to reevaluate its entire in-person activities to kind of account for that. And you can see this by our November conference that was originally going to be in person. Because of the Delta variant, we've actually switched it to virtual. So before you kind of be involved in tabling and clipboarding, it's worthwhile to just reevaluate the risk from COVID-19 and just determine whether it's the right kind of fit for you or not. It's always good to keep in mind that not everyone's able to be vaccinated. This is especially for young children under 12, as well as immunocompromised individuals. So if you have anyone in your life that fits this demographic, it may be worthwhile to kind of not do in-person activities for a bit still and keep that in mind. Even with tabling, we'd love to have your help on stuff, but we really want to make sure your family is being safe first. And if you're interested in really kind of evaluating your risk factors, we recommend this microCOVID site. It's microcovid.org, and it lets you kind of put in some factors and really kind of determine how at risk you are by taking by being involved in certain situations. CCL does have some COVID recommendations, and the first is to always follow your government regulations recommendations, and that's at the federal, state, and the local level. But this is kind of the bare minimum you should do, because the local regulations in a lot of places aren't as stringent as you would need to be really be safe. So that's kind of the bare minimum you should do, is just not to break any laws that are in place. CCL itself is recommending to avoid indoor in-person events just across the board. And even for outdoor events like tabling and clipboarding, CCL is really recommending that only vaccinated participants take part of it, as well as everyone, even if they're vaccinated, wears masks during the event. This is really to kind of protect our fellow volunteers. If you're not able to be vaccinated and wear a mask, there's always other ways to be involved with CCL that doesn't require in-person activities. Really, for the tabling and clipboarding that we're doing up until August 31st, our big focus is this House carbon price campaign, and really getting people to go to cclusa.org/house and take part in the actions there. And really the reason we're saying this is our focus and not on EICDA or CCL itself is that a lot of times you only have 30 seconds to make your pitch to someone. So we really want to focus on this prime objective, which is making Congress know about that we want carbon pricing in the budget reconciliation process. While you're tabling, it's best to get people to take the action immediately, right there with you. And this is for a couple reasons. The first is if they take the action immediately, you can help them through the process. And probably more importantly, if they take the action immediately, they're more likely to do it. If you let people go off to their home and do it, there's a good chance that they won't actually take the action. So you really want to encourage everyone to pull out their phone, scan the QR code that's on there, and really do it right away. If you do get people, though, who don't want to take the action immediately, we still recommend offering them a flyer to take home to do the action. And even if they do take the action, it's still a good idea to offer them a flyer. Yep, Sabrina's holding up, but it's upside down. Oh, that's the back of the clipboard. Yeah. So they might not be able to see that actually. Anyway, sorry about that, referencing that. But even if they do take the action immediately, you may still want to send them home with a flyer so that you can ask them to share it with friends and family and really get their entire network taking this action. And off on the right, that's kind of the information that they'll see on the page when they go to cclusa.org/house. Okay, next we're just going some planning tips. This is a planning meeting, which is why we're kind of diving into some of that. The first thing we really recommend is doing your research. You want to research what locations are going to be best to get your message out. And you're also going to be research the laws and rules about using said location. Some places don't like soliciting, so you want to make sure you're not going somewhere that you can't actually reach out to people about things. You want to make sure you're following the rules and regulations of the event you're attending. You really want to represent CCL as best you can. After doing some research, you want to also consider what supplies you'll need. We recommend for the top one, clipboarding especially, flyers, clipboards, pens, having a back sign that actually draws people into you. We've developed a few that we'll show later. These are kind of things you want to consider having. And for tabling, you'll want all of these things, as well as you want to consider if a table will be provided at the space of your event. You want any posters that you have, chairs for your volunteers, any table runners that you can buy for CCL, and potentially even things like coolers and drinks for your volunteers. These are all things to consider having just to make life a little easier. But you'll find that a lot of volunteers already own these things, so don't necessarily go out and buy them. If you want to do tabling, you should really reach out to your state coordinator first, just to make sure that we don't already have the resources available in your area. While planning, you also want to encourage everyone who attends to wear CCL swag. We have a lot of shirts, buttons, and stuff like that you want to make sure people have, just to kind of show that they're a member of what we're doing. And you'll also want to plan for your pre and post event. So by pre-event, we mean you want to make sure people know where they need to go to be involved. And for post-event, you want to make sure people know who to give supplies to and things like that to make sure we're not losing any of our tabling supplies. Who should you engage? So the obvious answer, the answer that first people come to mind would be to engage everyone. But if you try to hit 100% of people, CCL actually finds you tend to be doing it too aggressively. And so they like to encourage people to try to target about 80% of people walking past the table, and just kind of ask them if they want to be involved. And this is kind of a number they recommend where you're not being too aggressive, but you can still have a little bit of fun with it. CCL also recommends going for groups. And the idea is behind it, if you get one person to take the action, you can often turn that into other people taking the action. So if the group is already stopping for one person to fill it out, it's easy to just be like, hey, do you guys want to fill it out as well? You might as well, kind of thing. As well as groups, families with children, especially young children, are really good targets for our specific topic, climate change, because you can always use a line of something like, for the sake of our kids, stuff like that, to really kind of pull at their heartstrings a little bit. As well as the last group is you want to make sure you're targeting interested individuals. And mostly what we mean by this is, if you have people that seem uninterested and not really want to do it, you don't really want to spend time pulling their teeth on this. You want to just let them go and try to go for the next group. That's really important to kind of make sure you're doing. Some easy tips for engaging. You want to start with a good hook. CCL recommends saying something like, would you like to express your opinion about the environment? Or we have actually a script that will provide for this specific tabling, where they ask, are you concerned about climate change? That really kind of draws people in. They also recommend reading the crowd. And what they mean by that is, if you see someone walking around with a funny hat or shirt, make reference to it. Make that person laugh, really make it personal, because if you make someone smile, they're more likely to take the action and not blow you off. It's always something good and easy to do. If you find people are pausing, it's always best for especially this action to just make it sound super easy and just highlight that it's something that'll take less than a minute of their time, super easy and quick to do. The last 2 points are more of when you do get someone kind of drawn in, you want to make sure they're not blocking traffic, because you'll be tabling or clipboarding at a farmer's market or something. So it's a good idea to kind of pull them to the side and kind of walk them through things out of the way of traffic. If you have a table, pull them into your booth to kind of complete the actions if you can. And the last one, hover only as necessary. The idea is that you don't need to watch someone the entire time they're taking the action. Just kind of guide them as needed, and then try to find the next group to kind of pull into the topic. I should have said this earlier. When you're pulling people in, feel free to have more in-depth conversations about this if they're interested. That first 30 seconds about this topic is really to hook people in, not just to, if people are asking about CCL, feel free to share about CCL. And tips for tabling. The first, don't just stand behind your table. CCL really recommends being in front of your table or going out in crowds, kind of pulling people in. If you're just standing behind, people might just walk on by without really paying attention. And as the last one said, you really want to bring people into your area to complete those actions. so they kind of have those in-depth conversations around your table and not kind of in the walkway where everyone else is going to be. One of the important things to do with table and clipboarding is to make sure you do good follow-up. As we said with the post planning, you want to know who is responsible for the supplies, so we're not losing any supplies. Make sure that we're keeping all our clipboards and everything for the next event. Feel free to post your photos to social media. Each state probably, I mean, at least in Maryland, we have a social media account that we'd love to have you send us photos to upload and just kind of show people what we're doing. If you have any new prospects, someone that was interested in CCL, make sure to follow up, or even better yet, contact the group leader that's closest to them to have them follow up. Depending upon the event, you may not get a lot of new names. Like with this, we're focusing on the house campaign. If you don't get as many names, that's okay. But if you do get names, make sure to follow up. 24 to 48 hours is best. And last but not least, make sure you log your event in the action tracker to get credit for it. And so CCL can kind of show that it's doing things in the community. And off on the right, you see the grassroots outreach is where you're going to want to be logging this in the event tracker or the action tracker. And you're going to want to be logging as a table event. So that was kind of our tips and strategies. This last part is going to be our resources. And these are resources that are really specific for the campaign that's going on right now, which is our house carbon pricing campaign. On the left is the flyer that CCL is recommending you give out to people. On the bottom of the page, that link is to where you can find all these flyers. And it comes in like a quarter-size sheet, so you can get the whole bunch of them printed and cut out. So get people like a small quarter flyer. And really a couple important things. It tells people what we're about, but it also has both the address, the web address that it has, the web address that they can take this action at, as well as a QR code that they can scan it. So yeah, these are quick and easy things to hand out. You may also want to have the Senate one just in case. Even though we're no longer doing the Senate campaign, we're focusing on the House, they can still take that action. And so it might still be worthwhile to have enough handed out that if people are curious about doing more, you can hand them out as well. As we said, we'll make sure we're drawing people in. So it's also a good idea to have nice things in the back of your clipboards. On the left is one we produce with the QR code as well as the information. Just a quick and easy, hold it up, and people kind of encourage people to come over to you to start a conversation. On the right, these are actually ones that were produced out of New Jersey. They take more of an artistic approach, but just, yeah, it's just nice to have something on the back to really draw people in. If you have questions or want to be sent any of these, please feel free to reach out to me. And my email is at the beginning of this, as well as it's thaddeuswwaterman@gmail.com. I can forward you either of these clipboard backings. Yeah, so CCL does have an example script online specifically for this house campaign. It's that link at the bottom is where you can find it. It's just a script that they came up with in Arizona, I believe it was, where they went through it and kind of practiced. It's just a great way. It kind of showcases how you just really want to address people quick and easily. If they're not interested, just kind of wish them to have a good day and kind of move on. And really just kind of pull people in and do this topic. I don't think it mentions when you can give flyers out. That also on that link on the bottom, they'll explain when to give flyers out. And really it's whenever someone's not able to take the action, immediately give them a flyer, or if they were perceptive to our message, give them a flyer as well, just so they can share with friends and family. A lot of these events, we're starting to go try to be paperless, just to encourage, especially in the pandemic, not having a lot of paper trail. You're finding that congressional offices really aren't accepting paper stuff yet anyway. And so something that might be nice to have if people are interested in doing things just besides the House campaign is having a quick handout that has where they can write, call, tweet, and join our calling campaigns in general. That link at the bottom just has where you can find this one pager to print out. It just has QR codes where people can take a photo on their phone and kind of find where they can do all these actions. Here's a couple other resources that CCL provides. The clipboarding forums have a lot of good information. They will have pretty much all this stuff is right there. And that script I provided to you, that'll be at that link. I know it's a little weird. When I send out this recording to people, I'll send out the copy of this presentation so people will have it. We also, for this weekend, Maryland has a tabling/clipboarding planning document where we're just kind of planning the event, having a sign up, stuff like that. There's also a social media kit. This is for the specific campaign where if you are interested in sharing on your social media website, your Facebook, they'll have a whole bunch of stuff you can share directly about our current campaign. The last is just a CCL training where you can find most of this information in written form. Anyway, and thank you for your time, and we'll send this out to your leaders. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me.